Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're at. Welcome to the April webinar. Today, we're going to be talking to you a little bit about automotive and sustainability trends in the automotive space. This is always meant to be an informal conversation. John and I are going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 or so minutes discussing what's going on. And then we're actually going to take some time for questions. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and Carolyn will send them over to me, and we'll discuss those in a little bit. Okay, so I am joined. My name's Mike Trupas. I'm a vice president here at Foresight Management. Been with the company 13 years, and love talking about energy and sustainability and trends. And I'm joined because of popular demand. I'm joined by not a Foresight employee, but a colleague and friend, John Shalafo from the Motor Equipment Manufacturers Association.
Or MEMA, the Vehicle Suppliers Association.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so welcome. And we'll give John a little bit more time in a few moments to tell us a little bit more about MEMA. But I do want to address the elephant in the room. I think we all have it. It's a green elephant, and that is our awesome shoes. We got the green Chucks. So John actually was kind enough to provide me these green Chucks back in 2021, I believe. John, can you tell us the story on why the green Chucks?
So really quickly, the green Chucks came out of our remanufacturing and sustainability division. And it was to elevate and mainstream what our remanufacturing community did, showing that they walked the talk on sustainability. So they were first on display, I'll say, at Apex, the trade show. And we have taken them and brought them for the broader audience within all of MEMA. And they're a sustainability message for us now. The team wears them. We have members wearing them like yourself, Mike. And it really is just a great way to get the word out. Ask me about my green shoes, and we'll tell you how great our industry is, particularly in the world of sustainability.
For sure. So hopefully we can walk the talk here today, John. I love that. That's so great. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, for those of you who aren't familiar with Foresight, generally these webinars have a large tranche of clients as well as other people who are soon to be clients of Foresight. So I just want to take a moment and introduce you quickly to who we are. So we're an industrial manufacturing consulting firm. So we help organizations get started on their energy, sustainability, and environmental compliance journey. So we have a number of services, and generally speaking, we're finding in the industrial manufacturing space, companies are running lean and they're looking for support in actually implementing energy management, implementing a sustainability program, or implementing EHS compliance. And so we have on-staff experts as well as technology that enables us to do that. And I think I've already mentioned this, but we are narrowly focused on industrial manufacturing companies, generally more specifically on that middle market size. We find we're well suited for that, and there's a huge need there. And interestingly enough, probably our single largest tranche of industrial manufacturers are automotive. And so that's why we decided today, again, positive feedback around having guests in the house. A lot of automotive clients, we would take a little bit to talk about automotive trends. So, okay, let's jump in. We have John here as our guest in the studio today. John, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about MEMA and the Center for Sustainability?
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
So my role at MEMA is I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the group. And our group is two membership groups, OE suppliers and also aftermarket suppliers. And my other role is I am the Chief Operating Officer of that aftermarket group.
Yeah.
So within that, and I think we'll, maybe I was going to say we'll go to the next slide. I want to, unless you're going to.
Yeah, go for it. No, this is great. Yeah, so keep going.
So I'm going to focus on the overall group for a moment. And our Center for Sustainability, which was started just over 2 years ago. And as you can see on the slide, we have a bold vision, a world where meeting society's need for mobility produces nothing but a positive impact on humanity and the environment, on people and the planet.
Yeah.
And Mike, you and I talk about this a lot. It really all comes back to the people. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Sure.
The mission, as you can see, it is to serve our members wherever they are on their journey. And one of the things we're going to talk about is trends. And one of the trends that we see is that I'll say that members are at varying places along the journey. And that just makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Some are just starting still, and some are well along. It's a collaborative community. And we want to talk about compliance, which we will, but we also know that the center needs to help our members to build advantage.
Yeah.
And when you were showing your slide before about foresight, I call it the phone dial.
Yeah.
I know we don't have it in our deck today, but it's worth talking about it another time, how we collaborated on that phone dial to talk about how a good sustainability program needs to be stakeholder centric.
Absolutely.
So at the center, you're going to find your customers, and your customers can be your commercial customers. They can be the consumer, but other stakeholders there, we better talk about employees. We better talk about suppliers, the communities you serve. And then, of course, there's the bankers, investors, and insurers. But it all comes together with that within the mission. Our members, again, different places along the journey. We're a really strong collaborative community. I'm going to give a shout out to Brian Russell, who has been with us for almost a year now. He is the director of the center. And we just have a lot of, I'll say, member engagement. And the last, the value proposition, I like to call it the brand promise. It's the place to accelerate your journey.
Let's go. Great. So tell us a little bit about like inside of the center.
Yeah, so this is just a simple slide to take a look inside. So the center itself, we don't have the separate brick and mortar for the center. But if we did, it's housed within our Southfield, Michigan office. But if we did, and you walked inside, to the right, you'd see those that help us establish the center. So you'd see the steering committee. And our steering committee is so much like all the other governance bodies that we have within MEMA. We want it to reflect the membership. So it's automotive and commercial vehicle, it's OE and aftermarket, and it's certainly large and small members. So those are the people, and I'm going to stick with people for a moment and go down the vertical. At the center of or central to this is the Sustainability Council.
Sure.
And Brian and I worked hard last year and with our members and with colleagues, I'll say, within MEMA to really launch a council of true engagement for members so that they could focus on sustainability and address issues of common concern. Continue to go on that vertical, all the industry relationships. One very important one right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I started working together well before COVID. We really worked, I'll say, in the circularity space.
Yeah.
And then we've taken it and made it even broader for sustainability. And just a quick left and look right, you see the dialogue on the slide. You see all the different topics. Those are topics we're going to discuss today. We talk about them on Sustainability Hour at MEMA, at our council meetings, et cetera. But the real important one is the right. It's the solutions.
Yes.
Members come together. They want to advance. And pain point number one, which we'll get into, is for us to help them reduce the burden of reporting.
Yeah.
And I think we have one more slide to kind of...
Yeah, tell us about the recent progress.
The framework.
That you guys have.
A shout out to Kellen Mahoney, also at Suppliers Partnership for the Environment.
Yep.
We've been working with SP. In fact, we signed an MOU earlier this year.
Which is really exciting because Foresight is also a member of SP as well as a member of MEMA. Really two strong trade associations. It's great to see you guys partner together.
Yeah, it's great to see us partner together, and it's great to see the overlapping members too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we won't go through the different levels, but we are looking for quick wins. We're looking for near-term opportunities and then longer-term what we can do together. And we have regular meetings with them and their members. And again, just looking to continue to advance.
For sure. Well, thanks for that overview, John. Let's dig in. So I know we've had these conversations over the years, but it always helps to frame up as we talk about automotive today, some of the drivers as to why automotives are investing in sustainability. And you can see there's three major topics here on the screen, but certainly I think you and I have had big opinions over the last 6 or 7 years that we've known each other. But maybe, John, can you just take the audience through what are some drivers for automotive to invest in sustainability?
Well, in the little bit of introduction, I talked about the stakeholder centric.
Yeah.
If your stakeholders are asking, no matter who they are, you better be answering.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, and I'm going to start with the main one, the customer. Right.
Yeah.
If you're not meeting your customer's needs, you're not going to have the business.
What's the point?
So, right. Exactly. And what we like to say, you and I have talked about this too. It doesn't matter if you're a public company or not. You still have investors, might be your family. You still have bankers, and the insurers, as we mentioned. But it really comes down to all those different stakeholders. And what I found throughout this is, and I like to say, yes, we're helping society meet its need for transportation.
That's right.
And yes, there's a big spotlight on us because of the carbon and the rest. But we're human beings, and if we didn't do it, somebody else would. So what we want to do is to show all the great progress that we're making along the way. And sometimes I say, we have wonderful individuals as members, wonderful companies. So they're just looking to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And we just want to do more. I'll go back to that phone dial, right? We talk about collecting the data. You want to validate it, verify.
Yeah.
Right? Report and communicate. It's that communication piece that we really want to talk about too, because we have a wonderful industry and appreciate all that Foresight is doing to help. It's amazing for me, I'll say, to see how you have really come into the industry with us over the past 5-6 years, and how you get it, and how you're helping our members along the way.
For sure. I mean, that's the only way to really make meaningful progress on your sustainability journey, is to holistically understand. And like you brought this up, right? Like, communication is key in all of these. What's been fun, I think, for me, and we've talked about this for so many years and in so many different conversations, is these ebb and flow. So I would have argued 3 or 4 years ago, investors were a huge driver. Now I would say they're probably the smallest driver of the three of these. And in fact, what's really come in the last probably 12 months is the mandates. So California has passed laws. The European Union has passed laws around sustainability. Automotive companies, generally speaking, even down into the supply chain, typically are global companies.
Right.
And so they have to meet those requirements all across the board.
So we have members watching what Europe or other regions are doing, mainly because they have business there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And others that don't are watching because they're looking to see what might be coming.
Yeah, if you want to know where America is probably going, look at what Europe was doing 5 years ago, and you probably have a decent glimpse. That's well said. So that was some good table setting. You know John now. You know automotive space a little bit more for those of you who aren't familiar with the space. I want to talk a little bit about the brain trust that Foresight and MEMA have done together and individually on some engagement with intel gathering, and then we're going to actually go through some trends. So the first piece is both Foresight and MEMA have together collaborated on some market research, but then also individually done our own. And so Foresight actually has an automotive report. We're on our second phase of the automotive report. Carolyn over here is kind enough that if you're interested in that report, it's a large PDF. She'll put that in the chat. We'll also have that as an email that'll go out to you. But basically, Foresight's focus is our clients have come to us and asked us, how should we be thinking about sustainability? A big component of it is most of the global OEMs are publicly traded, and they're also very forthright on publishing sustainability reports on an annual basis. And so our team has gone through and done, you almost call it like a materiality assessment of the sustainability reports to figure out for each of the individual OEMs. And so again, this is just a cover page. We're not going to go into a ton of detail, but we actually break down each OEM. What are their goals? What are their supply chain expectations? Where are they trying to go, so that you can have, instead of reading a 100-page PDF sustainability report, you can see a 2 or 3 page distilled down vision of like generally where's automotive moving, and then specifically where are the different OEMs moving.
I remember when the first report was published, and that's it. I'm looking on the screen and it says edition 2, November 24. If I remember, it came right after you and I did a sustainability hour together.
Yeah.
Right as we were launching the Center for Sustainability, actually. Yep. And in a conversation with Logan before we got started, he was asking me about your report. Can you just share a little bit more about how your clients have used it? Because I have heard that it's a valuable resource.
Yeah. So again, I think the biggest piece is, and we're going to talk about this a lot too throughout the webinar, is companies are still trying to figure out what are my expectations? What is being expected of me? And also they're trying to figure out, yes, you're asking me to respond to these questionnaires, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit, but they're trying to understand what goals have these OEMs set for their supply chain, and how do I make sure that I understand what they are? Because if I want to create a competitive advantage, I'm going to want to align my goals so that they can be achieved in the same time frame that my major OEM clients or prospects are setting supply chain type goal. So a lot of it, again, I would argue, and this is a perfect segue into yours, is ours is a lot more academic, which is let's go out into the marketplace and understand what's publicly available to all, and how do we distill that down in a way that's digestible. And that's been a really, I think, great way to approach the project or problem. And like you said, our clients, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from it. The other route you can go, which is why we love partnering with MEMA, is you guys have actually gone and asked the supply chain, right? It's a little less academic. We're not looking at the OEMs, but you've gone down and said, dear suppliers, who you represent, help us understand how you're looking at and perceiving sustainability. So we have this nice one pager here, but John, but can you just take us through? You guys just did that survey. Is this the second or third year that you did?
Second year.
Second year. What did you guys find here in the second year on the survey?
So I'm going to go right to the top left side, and let's talk about performance and improved performance. 87% of our members reported either slightly significant or significant performance over the past year.
Amazing.
That means over the course of 2024. And that is actually amazing. What I find even more amazing actually is 0 said that it has degraded.
Okay.
And if we look forward to, we do an index, we turn the results into a bit of an index, and we ask them forward looking, what do you expect for next year?
Sure.
Or which next year is actually this year right now. And the index is relatively unchanged.
Okay.
It goes from 77 to 76. Let's call that unchanged.
I'm good with that.
But what's important about that is that means that they're looking forward to even greater performance improvement.
Yeah.
So again, I go back to the earlier comments. We're a great industry. We continuously improve, like others. But this is a chance for us to gauge what our members are saying. And what I like to say, if it's important to members, it's important to us.
That's right.
So if we were to look at some of the other key things that were important, you can see the sustainability reporting requests continue to grow. And I guess that would be kind of obvious with the earlier comments that it's pain point number one.
Oh, yeah.
Because that, however, right there is the costs. That's a significant burden.
Oh, yeah.
Not just, and when we look at cost, it's direct costs, it's, it's time, it's the employees you have to hire, and even outside resources. But the piece that I really wanted to get to was the top right, the big sustainability wins. And you can see that they're in 5 categories: waste reduction, renewable energy, sustainability reporting, naturally, I guess, right? Carbon reduction, and creating sustainability teams. What I love about this, you and I are going to get back to talking about people again.
So it all starts with people, which is amazing. And so this is actually where it was beautiful. As we were going through this and prepping for this webinar, John took us through this slide, and I said, hey, my wheels just started turning as he took us through those 5 topics. And I was like, these completely align with what we're seeing as boots on the ground in the industry right now. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to actually spend the entire rest of the webinar discussing really those 5 trends, which is clearly your members have indicated those are areas where there's big wins. And so we wanted to just take a little bit of time to now bring the information that John has heard from the supply chain and apply it practically in ways that we have helped our clients notch wins. So this will be a great time to kind of switch gears. Go, yeah, please.
Before we do, I think I misspoke earlier. When I talked about the 87%, it was either significant improvement or improvement. I think I said slight. Significant improvement or improvement. That's pretty impressive.
It's amazing. Completely amazing.
So, back to you.
Yeah. So we're going to cover these 5 topics one at a time. And we're going to actually do a little bit of a flip right now where John is going to turn into the host and I'm going to turn into the person who's going to share some stories of either automotive companies or other companies that have made investments in these 5 categories and notched real wins and real progress, the stuff that John has been talking about on the last slide for each of them.
So why don't we go right into the first one on waste reduction?
Yeah, let's do it.
And
go ahead.
I wanted to add one more thing too. When we talk about the MEMA membership, and I mentioned the 2 different sectors, basically automotive, commercial vehicle, the 2 markets, OE and aftermarket, large and small too. Okay.
Yeah.
The majority of our members are less than $150 million in annual revenue.
Yep.
That or less.
Yep.
And So when it comes to the waste reduction, some of it is a bit basic in a sense. And why don't you take us through like the range of what you see with your clients with waste reduction?
Certainly. And I know the joy of waste reduction is in your questionnaire. There may be a reference to all kinds of different types of waste, but I'm actually going to focus on material waste because this is something that's often overlooked. So if you go to the next slide here, we've been doing more and more of these like effectively like non-hazardous waste material assessments for our clients. And what we're finding is there's incredible opportunities for savings. And right now we're in a landscape where organizations are really looking to reduce costs as much as they possibly can. And so what we've done is we go in and we basically, it's similar concept to how you'd manage your energy or manage your sustainability, which is the first step is set a baseline and identify all of your streams. I say this every webinar, so I'm glad I got it in this time too. You can't manage what you don't measure. So let's set that baseline. And then once you do that, probably the biggest area we've notched wins is just understanding how often are you getting your waste picked up. And what we see is far too often an organization has an outlier event maybe 2 or 3 years ago where you were running really heavy for a couple months and the trash was overflowing. And so they said, hey, I need you to come pick up our bin 3 times a week, let's say. And so what happens is they set that and now the waste hauler comes out at 3 times a week and empties it. Well, if we go and look, we realize, goodness gracious, this bin is hardly full and they've already pulled it again. And so you go from maybe 3 times a week to 1 time a week. And back of the envelope math, that is proportional. You've just reduced your waste cost by 2/3. You've also just reduced your greenhouse gas footprint by 2/3 because that truck isn't making a trip to your plant 3 times a week. It's only doing it 1 time a week. So that's a huge win. And then from there, you got to look for alternatives and optimize your process. This is actually one of my favorite stories because a lot of people think, well, waste isn't all that expensive. How much value is there really? And this is actually a true story for a automotive, they're in the aftermarket space. It's a real client of ours. And we are doing a bunch of waste assessments at their distribution facilities. Again, being in the aftermarket, they're more distribution than manufacturing. And we're seeing all these pallets stacked up and we're like, hey, where are your pallet invoices? Talk to us about your pallet management process. And they go, we got it perfect, John. This company comes and they take all of our pallets away for free. We have no expenses associated with disposing of our pallets. And we go, tell us about these pallets. We get all the pictures, we do all this. We go back and we talk to a couple companies who buy pallets. And long story short is we got them into a contract where somebody went from taking them for free to paying them $750,000 a year for all of those pallets. Again, you don't know what you don't know, but managing your waste is a huge opportunity in either reducing it, but also just managing it better. We're seeing organizations not only are sending less waste to landfill, reducing carbon footprint, aligning with OEM goals, but they're also operating their business more efficiently and more sustainably.
Well, I was looking in the lobby before and I noticed you have for all your employees a really nice placard. And one of the questions on it was your first job. And I know yours said busboy. Yeah. But I actually think the reason we started on waste reduction, because you really got your start in sustainability in waste reduction, didn't you?
Yeah, in college. So in college, I was an avid dumpster diver. Let's go. We're doing it. We're gonna do this right in the webinar. I love it. A lot of people know this. So in college, I was into dumpster diving, and I'll never forget, John, you mentioned that. I still do it on and off as a hobby, even as an adult man. It's a tough life. And I'll never forget when we started offering these services, and I go, I literally hit the jackpot. Life is complete. I am getting paid money to go dive in dumpsters like I did for my hobby while I was in college.
Okay.
Like the whole circle of life is complete.
We'll move on to the next.
Great. Okay. That's great.
Let's talk about renewable energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so renewable energy, this is something that I think companies have been kicking the tires on for a number of years. And there haven't been, frankly, all that great of options. You can buy some renewable energy credits. If you go to the next slide, we can show the options. And that's really like all that a lot of organizations have had available. And what we've seen is OEMs are starting to offer things like power purchase agreements and other solutions. And so what we could spend a whole hour on just this slide. So to create this in a brief way, I just want to help you understand if you're looking at and considering buying renewable energy for your organization, there's really 2 major considerations that you need to look at when you're trying to buy it. The first is additionality, and the other is risk and cost. And so we'll talk about the word that probably a lot of you don't know. Additionality answers the question, does my decision add renewables to the grid? So in some cases, you may be supporting renewable energy, but you may be doing it indirectly. In other cases, like putting solar panels on the roof of your manufacturing facility, there's total additionality. All of that was driven, all of that renewable penetration was driven by your decision. So that's one component of the decision matrix when you're looking at renewables. The other is concept of risk and cost. I think we all understand cost pretty well. Risk is actually misunderstood because there's a number of different factors. One is financial risk, which is like, how much have I committed to and for how long? But there's other things like contracting risk is the other side of this contract going to be here in 10 or 15 years, right? This is an emergent, nascent market. Some players are big and reputable, other players are newer. So just understanding that level of risk is important as well. And so RECs are still available, and that's really where a lot of organizations can start. It's low cost and it's easy to transact. But what's been really fun is our renewables team has actually started notching wins, one level up on the green rates and tariffs. A lot of states are deregulated for energy, and we're helping our clients buy their energy bundled with a renewable asset, where the power and the RECs are coming from a single asset. They can sign a 1 to 3 year contract, still not a lot of risk, but actually do something that's pretty green. And then what's really been fun to see is solar has come down the cost curve in an unbelievable way over the last decade. And so what we're seeing is organizations both putting solar on their facility and paying for it, or doing like an on-site power purchase agreement where they don't pay for it and they buy the power. And then on the off-site side, same thing. If you're in a deregulated state, there's huge developments getting built. If you're willing to sign up and buy the power for 15 years, you can get a lot of benefits. So something, if your team has the expertise, it's absolutely worth considering and using this formula. If you're saying, Mike, this is not our core competency, the Foresight folks can help. We've presented to MEMA members on this, and this is definitely a topic we're hearing a lot around in automotive.
And again, we're talking about it because it's one of the big win areas, one of the wins.
Wins or wins?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
That's right. We did that one.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
You got it, my man.
That was in rehearsal. Okay. Yeah. But it's a big win for many of our members, but it's also a huge opportunity for continuous improvement for others to join along.
Yeah, and it's been really fun if we can find opportunities where, again, back to cost savings is king right now. If you weren't managing your energy contracts, we've had times where we're buying a client renewable energy at a lower cost than they were buying brown power before because it was just so poorly managed. So like you said, there's wins and wins and wins all in different types of ways.
Okay. Sustainability reporting. We've talked about it. Let's dive in a little deeper.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to say we've covered this a bunch, and I just want to recognize again the work that MEMA and SP have done coming together. Is someone who's attended a lot of MEMA events and attended a lot of SP events and just talked to a lot of automotive clients. Probably the biggest pain point, which you highlighted and what your members said in the survey as well, is it's burdensome. If you look at the next slide, there are all kinds of different reports that organizations have to fill out. And we're finding you're very large, you're publicly traded tier 1 manufacturers. In many cases, they have to do all 5 of these, John. And that's a crazy amount of work. And so I'll just say kudos to the MEMA folks and the SP folks. I think you guys have come together, and that seems to be one of the major topics you guys are trying to collaborate on. What I'm hearing, and hopefully this is encouraging to all the tier 1s on the call, there is becoming a growing appetite with the OEMs. And what I think everyone is becoming more unified in saying, and I'll just encourage all of us to say it because we're all hopefully singing from the same hymn book here, is if you as an OEM, if you want good engagement on questionnaires, you have to all pick a singular questionnaire so that these tier 1s can do fewer things better. Right? It's this concept of just getting questionnaire to death.
I'm going to give another shout out.
Go ahead, please.
Fred Gerstorf at GM.
Yeah. General Motors, yep.
Brian Russell and I both serve on the GM Sustainability Council. And I have to tell you, the sharing that is done and the real concern that Fred and his team have for making this better for the supply chain from a reporting point of view, it is so genuine. And it feels so good to participate in that. So, and I know there are other OEs and other customers that, are also looking for that type of collaboration and the rest, but I just have to give a shout out to Fred and his team.
100%. And along those lines, Fred's put his money where his mouth is. Back to the walking the walk here, they actually dropped CDP as a requirement and just stuck to 1 instead of 2 different questionnaires. So it's all through M2030. And depending on
the workshop.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll talk about that in a moment. That's great. Yeah. So depending on if you're publicly traded or privately held, a lot of the privately held companies, they're only doing CDP because a couple of the OEMs are asking. So as that gets dropped, we've had a number of clients come to us and say, we're not going to do CDP next year, which is great. That means they have one fewer questionnaire that they have to deal with, which means they can allocate more resources and more effort on the ones that they still have left. And speaking of which, it does seem, this is interesting, it does seem like the US OEMs and the Japanese OEMs have all kind of consolidated at this point around Manufacture 2030 as the premier reporting mechanism. So Toyota, Honda, General Motors, and Ford have all agreed, like, we're going to use the M2030 platform. And what's been a joy is we're actually collaborating with MEMA and running a workshop. So Foresight will do white glove M2030 response support for our clients, and that can be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, and depending on what other work we're doing with you. And in this case, we're actually going to offer it for under $1,000 to MEMA members. It's going to be a big workshop. We're going to actually be doing that next week. So if you're interested in that, reach out to John or I, and we can get you signed up for that workshop.
Let us know today, because there's some homework.
There is some homework, because you got to get all your data together.
From Carol again.
When I say a workshop, I mean we are going to put you to work. This isn't come and sit and listen to Mike talk like we're doing right now.
This is a roll up your sleeves and get the expertise from Mike and Foresight, but it also is going to be the expertise of the others in the room with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, really looking forward to that.
For sure. So definitely been some interesting wins in consolidation. There's still more work to be done. And I think some of that is, and it's probably, we have a couple minutes to, I'll just quickly share. We're finding the Europeans are a little less aligned with the European and Japanese automakers. Some of that is by nature of, they're just further ahead. They have more laws and regulations, and they've been aligned. So I know a lot of our US tier ones have struggled with supplier assurance. It's a German reporting platform, which is like part of their law. And so what ends up happening is you get all these very Germany specific questions. Well, if you operate a plant in Alabama that supplies to BMW, you don't have to worry about Germany's laws, but you do have to respond to this. So there can be some complicated nuances.
That's 3 down, 2 to go, and then we get the questions. So why don't we go on?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Carbon reporting.
Yeah. So this is a huge one. So we are seeing a
carbon reduction.
No, you're good. Yes. We're seeing a number of organizations really change their thinking. Like I said, I've been at this 13 years doing energy audits, and really in probably the last 12 months, we've moved out of, for a lot of organizations, your traditional energy audit, which is find efficiency and invest in efficiency, into like, they're saying, help me look holistically. I want to understand what I'm doing from a efficiency standpoint, but also how can I decarbonize? If I am going to set a 2030, a 2040, a 2050 decarbonization goal, efficiency may only get me 20 or 30 or 50% of the way there. And I want to actually have an understanding and a vision through the entire process. And so this has been really fun. This is a real client that we've redacted here, where they came to us and they said, we want to set some goals, help us figure out how we can get here and what we can do. And this is one of the fun ways we visualized it, which is they helped us understand their growth that they anticipate. And so we're going to just anticipate you're going to emit more carbon, right, John? And we want the economy to grow. Like we talked about, people need transportation and we need growth in our economy. So the answer is, how do we grow and decarbonize at the same time? So you can see business as usual, the dotted line, you actually would be emitting more carbon by 2035 than you are now, which makes sense. Your business is growing. And then we went to all of their facilities. They're a global organization. They make medical devices. And we went to all their sites and we started to talk to them about energy efficiency first. They're privately held. They still want to make those investments. But then we said, hey, what are the other things? And so we talked about additional opportunities, end of life replacements of equipment, and potentially moving those to either electrification, hydrogen, other low carbon fuel sources. And then we looked at some long-term efficiency, and then renewable energy certificates was something that they were interested in, and their clients said were a viable solution for them. And so this is just one example of how we were basically saying business as usual gets you an increase. You want a 35% decrease from now. Here's all the different levers you can pull. Here's the budgets for those over the next, call it decade, exactly a decade. And here's how to make those investments. And so
we're here to talk about trends, and I see carbon usage is trending downwards.
Yes, that's you got it. That's a great trend. That's a very positive trend. Oh, John and I, it's got to just turn into jokes. It's just a joke telling contest here. Yeah, and so it's been really fun, like you said, John, to just see like organizations start to say, like, we want to look at this holistically, right? We're not here to just squeeze out a little bit more toothpaste out of the tube. Let's just reimagine what we can do here.
Before we go to
please.
people and building a team, can you just give us a quick piece on LCAs and the importance of a good life cycle assessment?
So well said.
Yes.
So you can decarbonize your operations all you want, but if your product isn't sustainable, it kind of doesn't matter. And so life cycle assessments helps you understand what is the impact associated with what I'm manufacturing. A lot of organizations are using LCAs either to innovate their products, so make them more sustainable, have a lower footprint, operate better. We're also seeing this a ton in especially the automotive space. Life cycle assessments are being used to espouse the benefits of things like remanufacturing. Why should we make a whole new brake caliper that needs to have casted steel parts when you can take the steel casting and just remanufacture it and use it again? And generally speaking, those LCAs are showing your carbon footprint is like a 90% reduction when you can do that.
And my background in sustainability being circularity and then also remanufacturing, and what a great tool, and you helped a lot of our members to realize that. But what a great tool for those in the remanufacturing community, because they have a great story to tell.
Absolutely.
And I believe he's out there today. Josh Sherbin will remember in our Valio days, our boss would always tell us to speak with data. So
that's right. The data is important. That's awesome. Cool. Good stuff.
Shall we go to the last one?
Yes, let's absolutely go to the last one.
Sustainability teams.
This is great. I feel like we've been practicing this for 5 years in our discussions. One of my favorite things to tell the head of sustainability or the head of environmental health and safety who's driving sustainability at our clients is I say, if you're the only person doing sustainability at your organization, you're doing it wrong. You need to bring in the whole team. And this is like really the vision we're seeing. And I think, John, you've actually mentioned this. Like, this is something that this trend happened for quality and a number of other things, right? Whereas basically, like, yes, you have a person with that title, but their job isn't to do all the work. Their job is to infuse the concept of sustainability, of quality, of whatever you name it, down into the entire organization. Because if you don't have everyone bought in at an organization investing in sustainability, it's really difficult to move.
So can I give a little data from the survey?
I want this.
Speaking of data,
please.
So our members again have reported that 50% have a full-time sustainability manager.
So only half.
35% have up to one, and around 10% have 15 or more. So again, you get an idea of the varying size of the group. And as far as spending, about 25% spend less than $50,000 a year.
Yep.
And less than 10% spend greater than 1.5 million. Now, let's talk about what that spend is. That's direct employee costs and other internal and external.
Yeah, we would be considered like an external cost.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just to put it in perspective.
That's a really good perspective, because that's what we see, right? I talk about this all the time with, you call it your like billion in revenue to 750 million. They have a decently high reporting burden, but almost none of them have a full-time staff. And so can you get started on doing this, hire an organization like Foresight to help you? But then exactly to your point, also a lot of our role is how do we engage the people on staff, the quality director, the environmental health and safety person, the head of engineering, operations folks, and explain to them, these are the investments that you can make. And I think you talked about this at the top of the hour, and I just find this so compelling, which is businesses are made of people. Mm-hmm. And if you don't invest in your people and what they're looking for and make those investments in the individuals within your organization, it's just really hard to have a successful business.
I'll just add too, if you need to get others on board, we've gone through the ESG term, the sustainability itself, the politicalization of the word, at least ESG. Oh, yeah. You and I saw that coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But sustainability is here to stay. It's a word that's been around for 100 years, according to Merriam-Webster. And if you need to get people on board at your company, just tell them sustainability is all about being responsible to people, the planet, and your business. And that alone should, you know what, you could pick which one you might want to focus on. You and I like to say, hey, it all comes back to the people. But if you're not responsible to the business in all that you're doing, then the business won't be around to do good, to do all the good that it does.
Yeah, couldn't. I
the
mean,
communities you serve.
I feel like you and I could rant about this forever because I'm the same way. I love the simplification. It feels like too often we want to make sustainability have the most complicated definition, or we want to turn it into ESG and have 10,000 metrics and KPIs. And the reality is, I love yours. People plan a profit. I always say sustainability is just leaving something better than you found it. It feels like I'm coming back. I have a 4.5-year-old at home, and we're teaching her this, right? Like, hey, we're going to clean up.
That dumpster was lighter when you were done with it.
That's exactly right. We're going to clean up after ourselves. We're going to leave a smaller mess than what we found. And I have to do this. We're at the playground and we're cleaning up, and Maddie's like, well, I didn't get that out. And it's like, well, it's okay. We're still going to clean it up, and we're going to leave this place better than we found it. What a great way to end. As a reminder here, this is a great chance for you to get your questions in. We have questions in the chat, and you can type those in. And then John and I are going to have a little bit of a time for discussion. Before we do that, I do want to say, John, thanks so much for coming out. What a pleasure to have you here. I know, and we'll get to this in just a few moments as we wrap up, but these have been really fun, and we're actually going to do another one next month. So Wendy's webinar next month, we have it up here, where we have one of our clients, Newcraft, is going to come in, and we're going to talk about certifications. So again, if you're liking this format where we're doing some webinars with only Foresight folks and other webinars with everybody, shoot us an email. We'd love to hear it. And any feedback you have is always welcome. Okay, so let's jump in. I got a couple questions here. One is, if we're budget constrained, which of what you shared, which efforts should we prioritize for this year? I can take a
Can I start really quickly?
Yeah, please.
You're the one that taught me this. And then I'm
please.
Take it right back.
I love it.
Let's go back to the phone dial we spoke about, right? This is for the sustainability framework, right? It all starts at the top, right? And you're the one that taught me, I'm going to say years ago, what are you good at?
What's your core competency?
Keep going.
Yeah,
I just teed it up.
100%. And so like a lot of our clients, they're really good at manufacturing things, making car parts, and doubling down on that. And what they're not very good at, and this is actually perfectly teed up to answer this question of what should I start to focus on this year if I don't have any budget, is cost mitigation. A lot of organizations are really good at manufacturing things, and they often don't have the time and the resources to dig in and make sure that they're keeping their costs as low as possible. And obviously, this is true beyond utilities. I'm going to talk utilities because it's our book. It's something we're deep experts in. But we often hear there's ways to look at your, media and print spend. There's ways to look at marketing, anything outsourced or anything that you're buying, just taking the time to look at it. But what we're often finding in times where there's uncertainty is organizations go back to wanting cost savings. And I can tell you right now, a ton of our clients are saying the same thing, which is we're not really going to buy anything unless there's a real ROI on it. And so my suggestion on all the things I talked about is, I talked about the waste piece, is if you have not taken a look at your waste, it's absolutely something to review. And if you're like, hey, Mike, we don't know anything about waste, let's hop on a call. We can review the utilities at no cost and come back to you and either explain, hey, you're doing a great job. Somebody here clearly has an eye on it in purchasing, or wow, there's a ton of opportunity. And what we've been able to do and get creative, I think this is the joy of being a mid-sized business. We have 100 employees. We're very nimble, is we're starting to get with clients and saying, we're not going to charge you anything. We're just going to charge you out of the savings. And I know there's a lot of companies out there that do that, and it can be grimy. We really try to talk about the total savings at the front end, what you're going to end up spending, and make that a lot more of a transparent process. But I would say, like,
you don't pay unless we win.
That's exactly right. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard not to say yes to that. And so we're like, that's, I think, a big area we're seeing is like, invest in your business, right? If you have uncertainty and you may not be growing, is invest in keeping your costs as low as possible. I know decarbonization is sexy and fun, but yeah, if you don't have budget this year, decarbonization, it's probably not the topic for today and right now. Okay, here we go. Do you think more OEMs will move to M2030 in the next year? You have any thoughts on that?
It's certainly M2030 seems to be on the rise.
Yeah,
but I don't have any real insight as to whether or not or how that might happen.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm like shamelessly willing to go out on a limb here and be completely wrong or right. But my take would be, I don't see the Europeans. Again, this is maybe just me as a pessimist. I don't think the European OEMs are going to come to alignment with the Japanese and the US automakers. And the reason why, back to my earlier statements, is there's so much more regulation in Europe around sustainability than there is here in the US. And so my perception would be that the Europeans look at the M2030 platform and find it to be less robust. And that's exactly why I think the US and Japanese auto manufacturers adopted it. And don't hear me as like hating on Europeans. I think they have a great vision and are leading really strongly. But I've actually seen, and again, credit to the trade associations, credit to all of you tier ones pushing on the OEMs, is it seems like the Japanese and Americans have realized we have to be pragmatic here. We can't just questionnaire our supply chain to death, or they will not.
I know in a perfect world, we'd like to see everybody on the same platform, but I think of even vehicle safety standards. They're not the same around the world, and I think more progress needs to be made in the different regions, and then we can look at maybe consolidating further.
Yep. Yeah, so the North American market, I think the Japanese in the US can continue to consolidate, and maybe it'll be M2030. Yeah, CDP I think is overkill, and that's probably why General Motors made that change. Is they just asked for a lot more information, I think, than General Motors actually needs, and so that's probably what's going on. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to notch any wins in the EU, but I think if there's other, you think of like, I don't know a ton about the Korean manufacturers, so like Kia and Hyundai, as well as some of the more like new entrants like a Rivian. I wouldn't be surprised if like those type of companies align more with an M2030. But yeah, it's an interesting question. It's very
keeping an eye
fun to speculate. And yeah, and I was going to say, I can tell you right now, I know Mima and SP and us and so many others are continuing to say like let's consolidate fewer questionnaires so our suppliers can do better on them. Great question, and hopefully that was a satisfactory answer. Oh, let's go. I love this, John. I feel like you and I are like we're both dreamers and can get off the rails. And this is seems like maybe the perfect question for us to dream and get off the rails. Do you feel like EV adoption is slowing? Is part one. I'll do both parts and then you can take it as we go. The second part is how is this impacting the industry's effort in sustainability?
Do I think it's slowing? It seems like it is, or it probably would be because of the change in administration. I'll say that. But at the same time, I say, watch out, right? Every day we continue to advance in sustainability in our industry, and every day the technologies continue to advance. It's probably a little breather that it needed for adoption. But I personally believe that electrification of the vehicle is absolutely here to stay. What will power that or provide the electricity for the vehicle? Will it be a battery or a hydrogen fuel cell or whatever it may be? I think that's to be determined. Personally, I'd love to see fuel cells. I think that I just talked about safety for a moment. We have gone the opposite way in safety with the mass and I'll say now the weight of these vehicles with the batteries. I grew up on the automotive OE side of the business, and when we were working on some particularly drivetrain components, the vehicle manufacturers would pay us extra if we could take weight out. So we're moving in the wrong direction from a weight point of view. So battery technology will continue to change. We hear about solid state, et cetera. But whatever we do, we have to get vehicles to get back on track to losing some of the pounds.
I totally agree, and I'm gonna keep going on this rant, and we may get completely off the rails. Like I said, totally agree with John. It's interesting to see. I think that the industry is still growing. What we're seeing though is like Tesla is not. And what's interesting there is, and I don't want to make this political because I'm not a political, neither of us are really political people, is I think Tesla was like the king of innovating for so long, and then they just haven't refreshed their models in a really long time. And so you have like Chinese manufacturers like BYD that have innovated a ton, and you've even found like the big three have started building like some really compelling electric vehicles, and like General Motors has grown significantly. If you look specifically at General Motors, their EV growth has been huge in the last year. So it's like it's a little more chunky than what we've seen. My fundamental issue, and again, I'll get on my soapbox here on why I still personally haven't gone to an EV, is I actually think the technology is superior to combustion. I like the concept of reduced maintenance. I like the concept of improved sustainability.
Can I guess?
What I don't, yes, go ahead.
Cost of ownership.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what's driving cost of ownership is insurance rates on EV. And what's driving this, and this is not a Tesla problem, Rivian has the exact same problem, is you can't get them repaired. So like there's stories of people who get in like fender benders and have to total their Rivians and Teslas because you cannot repair them. And so like, and John, I know this is a passionate thing for him. It's a passionate thing for me for different reasons. But like right to repair is something that nobody actually talks about, but has massive implications for both sustainability and massive implications for us as general consumers in the economy. And so what I think I have major issues with Tesla and Rivian, and I actually think I might have them with a lot of the GM, Ford, you name it, EVs, is all these automakers are licking their chops and saying, this is my chance to hold captive and squeeze out independent repair garages, independent repairs. We have all this technology and we don't want you messing with our algorithms, and so you can't repair your own vehicle. And I have problems with that.
We're going to get into a whole nother webinar as we get deeper into that. And I'd love to talk more about right to repair and MEMA's position on that, which I know we spent a lot of time today mainly talking on the OE side. There's a lot of efforts going on in the aftermarket side too within MEMA. But I do want to say, just to add to, there's an economic equity piece here. And not everyone can afford a new car. Not everyone's going to be able to afford an EV or to be able to the cost of ownership of that EV. So we talk about sustainability being a journey. Our path to electrification is a journey also.
Absolutely.
And maybe we'll just leave it at that.
I think it's great. And I'll just leave it at like what I love about you, John, and what I love about what we're trying to do here at Foresight is this is a nuanced conversation. We agree mostly, but we disagree in other areas. But the reality is
Where do we disagree?
I don't know, maybe we don't. I think adoption's coming faster, and I don't agree with the hydrogen piece. I think it'll be batteries. I think the battery technology will develop, and hydrogen's is so we do have some disagreements. But what I'm trying to get at is,
I'll see you afterwards.
Yeah, let's go. We gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
I think too often there's not a lot of nuance in this conversation, which is it's easy to just be like electric vehicles are terrible or they're the greatest. And the reality is there's a lot of areas of electric vehicles that I think are significantly better than ICE. And there are a lot of areas of vehicle electrification and the new entrants to the automotive industry. Think about like Tesla and Rivian are successful car companies for the first time in 100 years. And so like there's also some considerations around like the dealership model.
Koenigsegg. Sorry.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, Christian von Koenigsegg and the Koenigsegg cars.
I have no idea.
All right, well, we would have to cut this out, but keep going.
This is live, man. We're not cutting anything out. And so, but what I'm saying is, there's a lot of nuance in these conversations, and what I've appreciated more and more lately is when people are willing to go get into that, like you and I are here, and say like, hey, it's penetrating. There are real major pros and real major cons to vehicle electrification.
Koenigsegg makes hypercars.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more question, and then I think if you want to keep ranting about this, we could fill another hour.
Hennessy.
You and I could fill another hour on this. Somebody just asked, what's included in the M2030 workshop coming up? Would we have time to prepare and do the homework if it's next week? So what's included is we'll run you through how it works and how the questionnaire is set up, and give you some tips and tricks for success. There's a number of videos we pre-recorded ahead of time. So that's all the things that you'll get. You certainly probably should have time. The real spirit of this is there's going to be like I think it's a 4-hour session. We're gonna have at least an hour and maybe more of like actual work time. And so the point is to bring your information so you can get it in. And so I would say if you have the time, if you have all of your utility data, that's the big thing M2030 is looking for, then you've probably done a big chunk of the homework.
I think whoever's asked that question, I think a quick phone call with you after this would be perfect.
Yeah, but I would say generally speaking, if you have a good amount of your data, that's the biggest piece of homework is get all your data so we can work on it and you can get started, right? The goal is by the end of the workshop, you've either done all or some of your buildings and you feel confident that we've troubleshot the entire process all the way through. Because that's the biggest feedback we get from companies when we're helping them navigate these questionnaires is, do you have your login, some of that basic stuff, which will get you ahead of, and then a lot of it is it's a new system. People need to figure out how to troubleshoot the issues that they have.
Is this going to go down as another left shoe, right shoe?
Yeah, please. We have so many left shoe, right shoes. That's exactly how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for humoring John and I in our bad jokes, our dad jokes. We got dad jokes for days and our rants on vehicle electrification and right to repair and all the other nerdy automotive stuff. Hopefully this was educational for you. Again, I want to invite you to attend our webinar next month. Wendy is going to be hosting that one. And we're going to be talking about certifications in the design world with our friends over at Newcraft. So for all of you who tuned in, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next month. And thank you, John, for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for the Foresight team, and thanks to all who have joined us today. Look forward to further conversations.
Take care.